Sup, guys? 2-1 yesterday. I'll take the winning day, and I guess I'll take the Yankees suffering an embarrassing loss because go Red Sox. Yankees suck. All right, we move on to today. I got two Major League Baseball plays today on an abbreviated Major League Baseball card for Thursday. And actually, the first two games up, I'm going to play both of these. I'm just firing. I don't even care at this point. First game up on the schedule is Minnesota, Arizona. I'm going right back to the well and taking Minnesota again after they won yesterday. I think it's kind of a similar spot here today in a way. So both teams used, I think, four relievers yesterday. So the bullpen situation is kind of, I would say it's still an advantage to the Twins just because I think they have the better bullpen. So both teams kind of had similar bullpen usage yesterday. Or actually, not really, I guess, because the Twins used like 30-something pitches worth. And yeah, two of their guys, Stomont and Duran, both only went 5 pitches and 3 pitches. So it's possible they're not even unavailable, whereas the D-backs used their relief staff for like 80 pitches, 70-something pitches. So bullpen advantage, we'll go full game on this. So I think the bullpen advantage is to Minnesota. And I like the starting pitching matchup here, even though it looks like the market percentages right now are going against this, with Arizona being public, though, with 67% of the tickets, but 71% of the cash on Arizona. The line's sitting at minus 120. You can grab, Minnesota at minus 110, plus 110 right now as an underdog. So I'm going and doing this. I'm not convinced that Minnesota should even be the underdog. I mean, they're a hot team right now. Their offense hasn't been that bad. Like I said, I was on them yesterday. They won again yesterday, and it's a similar situation in a way today where Minnesota has a young starting pitcher, and he's actually making his Major League debut, David Festa. It's going to get real festive in here. He's 24 years old. His numbers in the minors are pretty impressive, man. He's been in AAA for a while now, so he is at that highest level of minor league baseball right now, and he's been there for a while, so we have a decent sample size to work with. And he typically has had good command in the minors, but when he moved up to AAA, he did have some issues with walks for a little while, but he seems to have gotten that under control. And his strikeout rate is one of the highest in minor league baseball, man. He's striking out guys at a ridiculous clip, like 37-point-something percent strikeout rate, something insane like that. He's upped his velocity on his fastball up into like the mid to high 90s. He's got a couple of breaking pitches and a changeup, which maybe he needs to work on a little bit more, I guess, but he's still got that like starting pitcher arsenal. He's considered one of the better prospects in Minnesota's organization, and now they're finally bringing him up. I don't think he could possibly be as bad as Paddock has been, because, of course, they do like Paddock as well, but they like Festa, and I like what we see out of him. He's got pretty good numbers in AAA, despite that like rocky start that he had in AAA. He's still got like an ERA in the 3s. Pretty low whip and a really high strikeout range. His command has gotten under control. So I like all that. And you know what I always say, when you have a young pitcher who's like a decent prospect with decent stuff and he's up against a lineup that's never faced him before, pitcher tends to have the advantage, man. And that's going to be Festa. Jordan Montgomery is pitching for the Diamondbacks. I've gone against him before, and I'm doing it again here. I think maybe to my chagrin, I've gone against him before, but hopefully that's not the case here. He's got bad numbers this season, man. 5.71 ERA, 1.57 whip. He has not been pitching well, though he's had a few decent starts in a row. He's coming off a good start against the Philadelphia Phillies, but maybe that'll even put him in a letdown spot, because prior to that, he had a shutout 5-inning performance against the White Sox. I mean, the White Sox might have the worst offense in baseball. Had a very mediocre starting. It's a weak Anaheim lineup before that. There's not that much that's impressive about Montgomery, man. He's got 44 strikeouts, 22 walks. That's not a good strikeout-walk ratio, really. In 63 innings, he's allowed 77 hits. So, as I said, he's putting way too many men on base. When you put guys on base, bad things are going to happen, man. He's just not having a good season. And Minnesota's hitters, we have a good sample size here to look at, and they've hit him well. 27 for 96, 8 doubles, 6 home runs, 16 RBIs. Does have a 17-4 strikeout walk ratio against them, but it's a 281 batting average and a 862 OPS, 310 on base percentage, 862 OPS. So Minnesota's offense has really good numbers pretty much against Montgomery. So I think Minnesota's got the advantage in this one. with the starting pitching matchup and actually with the bullpen as well. So we'll go full game. We're getting Minnesota as an underdog price. Sometimes you can get good prices on these guys making their major league debuts, man, because people don't know who they are yet. We'll go there. We'll go with Minnesota. And then the other game I'm going to be on, I'm going against what I see in the market to some extent. I'm taking the Chicago Cubs. So we're going to be done in their afternoon into the evening, man, with 2 afternoon games here. Chicago Cubs at San Francisco, even though the Cubs are public with 79% of the tickets and only 70% of the cash. With the way they've been playing, I'm kind of surprised they're public, especially because both of these teams are teams that have like weight behind their name, behind the organization. San Francisco's been playing better than the Cubs recently, although I think both teams are below 500 and don't have good-looking records. But maybe the public is just on to Shota Imanaga, who is starting for the Cubs here. But he's part of the handicap here and why I like this. Even though the Cubs are public and we see less of the cash on them, we do see that the line's gone up on them a little bit from minus 103 to minus 108. You can lay them, I think minus 108 is probably the best you can do right now. So you can lay them at a very small price. Basically, it's just you're paying the juice, essentially, the vig. So the Cubs are still like kind of the underdog here. And I don't know if they should be. So we got, it is a decent pitching matchup here. And the situation, I think, does call for Chicago, though, because San Francisco's on the verge of sweeping the Cubs, man. So they might take the Cubs for granted after winning the first 3 games of the series. And up tomorrow, San Francisco has the LA Dodgers. That's a big series coming up, man. Big divisional matchup. Giants-Dodgers. It's the old New York rivalry. It's an NL West rivalry now. Dodgers, one of the best teams in baseball. Huge game upcoming for the Giants. So they could overlook the Cubs in this last game, man, after they've beaten the Cubs 3 in a row. And the Cubs might be more highly motivated to get out of here with a win and salvage something in the series. Cubs, I think their bullpen is actually in better shape yesterday, too. Both teams used relievers for about 60 pitches yesterday, but the Giants used 4 relievers and used some of their better relievers to hold off the Cubs yesterday. Whereas the Cubs kind of went with an opener approach with Wisniewski, but he did go 4 innings. They keep him on like a low pitch count, though, and he kept them in the game kind of. And then they used Smiley, who was kind of a long relief man as well. So the Cubs kind of rescued their bullpen yesterday and only used 2 other relievers. So I think their bullpen is actually in better shape out of the 2 coming into this one. So we're going full game for all those reasons because of the situation where I think the Cubs are going to be highly motivated to win. And I think San Francisco could be distracted having the Dodgers up next. Chicago, I think, has the better bullpen spot, and I think they have the better starting pitcher, man. They got Imanaga starting, as I mentioned, 2.96 ERA this year, 1.1 whip, having a very good rookie season. And he's coming off by far his worst start, man. He had 1 bad start prior to the last start where he gave up 7 runs against Milwaukee. And in his most recent start, he gave up 10 runs against the Mets, even though he still only had a 3-1 strikeout walk ratio. So he wasn't wild or anything like that. He just got knocked around, got hit, gave up 11 hits. He put 12 men on base and 10 of them scored in 3 innings. It's not good, but you could consider that to be a bit of an outlier. And if you take that start and the Milwaukee start out of play, Imanaga is not allowed more than 2 earned runs in any other start this season. So he's having a good rookie season, man. Overall, good numbers. 81 strikeouts and only 12 walks. 22-2 strikeout walk ratio this month in June. So he hasn't really been falling off as far as the strikeout walk ratio is concerned. Those numbers are still good. And he's allowed 75 hits in 79 innings pitched now, even after allowing 11 and 3 innings in his most recent start. So he's still having a good season, man, and I think he's in a bounce-back spot now after his worst start of his career in the majors, which is entirely this season. I think he's going to be in a bounce-back spot. That was kind of a tough game against a hot Mets team, who really the Mets had kind of been on fire at that point. And Imanaga, I think he's in a bounce-back spot. He might come out angry, didn't pitch well in that one. He's going to come out, and he's facing a lineup that's never seen him before. So that's the other thing. In that Mets game, this wasn't the case with the Milwaukee game, but with the Mets game, the Mets had actually seen Imanaga already once this year, and he did well against them, a 7-inning shutout against them back in May. So the Mets had seen him once, so maybe they were familiar with him and knew how to hit him. That's not going to be the case here. So that could explain why he did badly in that game. That's not going to be the case here with the Giants. The Giants have never seen Imanaga before. So again, we have a pretty young, like good pitcher, is new to the league, has good stuff, and he's facing hitters who have never seen him before. So I think the pitcher is going to have the advantage there. He's up against Jordan Hicks, who does have decent numbers this year for the Giants with a 3.24 ERA, but he does have a 1.28 whip. So his whip is actually kind of concerning. And he is coming off a bad game as well against St. Louis, where he gave up 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 6 hits in 4 innings. So he put a lot of guys on base, only had 1 strikeout. He's not a really good strikeout pitcher, man. His walk numbers are pretty concerning, especially this month. He has a 17-12 strikeout walk ratio and 21 hits allowed in 17 1/3 innings. So none of that is really that good. Overall, 69 strikeouts and 31 walks. That's not a good ratio either. In 80 2/3 innings pitched on the season. 72 hits allowed isn't bad. So he's not allowing that many hits, but he's walking a lot of guys. His strikeout rate is pretty low. So even though his ERA is good and he's limited damage in a lot of cases, he's kind of getting away with putting too many men on base, man, with these walk numbers. These walk numbers are not good. And he faced the Cubs 2 starts ago. The Cubs just faced him 10 days ago. So I like that as well, man. That means the Cubs are familiar with him. The Cubs just saw him. So I think the Cubs actually have an offensive advantage here against Hicks because they just faced him. Hicks threw a 5-inning shutout against him in that game, but he did put 8 men on base, 4 hits, 4 walks, and 4 strikeouts, and he kind of got away with it. Putting 8 men on base in 5 innings isn't exactly good, and he got out of there not allowing any runs, so he kind of got lucky in that one, man. The Cubs, I think they know how to hit him. They know how to get on base against him. They just saw him, so I think that's an advantage to the Cubs. I don't really think Hicks is going to be in a bounce-back spot coming off a bad start against St. Louis. He has not pitched well in this month, man. He's gone 3 2/3, 4 2/3, 5 4 for his innings pitched in the games this month. And you have to go all the way back to April to find a game where he went beyond 5 2/3, where he had a 6-inning game. Very good start, actually, against Pittsburgh. He's been pretty much struggling for a couple months straight now, man. So not really great. His ERA might be a little bit misleading, as I said. And up against the Cubs hitters, the Cubs really, yeah, it's true that they don't have good numbers against them. The Cubs are 6 for 34 off in lifetime with 2 doubles, no homers, 3 RBIs, but 10 walks and 12 strikeouts. So he has been wild against the Cubs and has walked too many of them. So they have a 176 batting average, but a 364 on base percentage is a little bit more appealing. And the OPS is 599, which is low, but not as low as you would expect if he's holding them to a 176 batting average. So the Cubs, while they haven't hit him well, they've gotten on base against him. They just saw him, and they put 8 men on base in 5 innings against him in that game. So I do think that the Cubs should be able to get something against Hicks in this game, even though on the surface he does have pretty good numbers against him with the batting average against. But his other numbers against him aren't really that good. And like I said, the situation with him just having faced the Cubs, I think puts him at a disadvantage. So that's going to do it, man. 2 baseball situational plays here. I want to get back on track, man. This feels like I'm kind of getting back to my bread and butter here. I feel good about the 2-1 yesterday. Let's hope it's the start of something good. Minnesota Twins plus 110 and Chicago Cubs minus 108 today. Let's get it done. Let's go into the evening having a nice victory for today in our laps. Come on, man. Peace.